Sometimes the most powerful people in the world are brought to their knees not by business rivals or market crashes, but by a single moment of truth that changes everything they thought they knew about life. Marcus Wellington had built an empire worth billions, owned properties across 3 continents, and commanded respect from world leaders. Yet on one rainy Tuesday evening in downtown Chicago, a 12-year-old girl sitting on a cardboard box would teach him the most valuable lesson of his life. What started as a chance encounter would unravel secrets that had been buried for years, expose lies that had shaped destinies, and prove that sometimes the person you're meant to save is actually the one who ends up saving you. This is the story of how a moment of compassion led to the discovery of a truth so shocking that it would forever change 2 lives and redefine what it truly means to be family. The rain hammered against the windows of the black Bentley as it crawled through the evening traffic of downtown Chicago. Marcus Wellington sat in the back seat, his fingers dancing across the screen of his tablet while he reviewed quarterly reports from his various companies. At 52, Marcus had built Wellington Industries from a small tech startup into a global empire worth over $8 billion. His steel gray hair was perfectly styled, his Italian suit immaculate despite the long day of back-to-back meetings. "Sir, there's quite a bit of traffic ahead," his driver, James, announced from the front seat. "Might take another 20 minutes to reach the hotel." Marcus barely looked up. "That's fine. I have calls to make anyway." He was scheduled to attend a charity gala at the Ritz-Carlton that evening, one of those obligatory social events where wealthy people gathered to write checks and feel good about themselves. Marcus had long ago grown tired of such gatherings, but his public relations team insisted they were necessary for maintaining his image. As the car inched forward through the congested streets, something caught his attention through the rain-streaked window. Huddled against the brick wall of an old building, barely visible under the flickering light of a broken street lamp, was a small figure. Marcus initially dismissed it as just another homeless person, something unfortunately common in this part of the city. But something made him look again. It was a young girl, couldn't have been more than 12 or 13 years old. She sat on a piece of torn cardboard, her thin frame shivering under a soaked hoodie that was several sizes too big for her. Her dark skin glistened with raindrops, and her hair was plastered to her head. What struck Marcus most was not her obvious distress, but the way she held herself with a dignity that seemed impossible given her circumstances. "James, pull over," Marcus said suddenly. "Sir." James glanced in the rearview mirror, confusion evident in his voice. "Pull over. Now." The driver maneuvered the luxury vehicle to the curb, and Marcus stepped out into the cold rain. His expensive shoes splashed through puddles as he approached the girl. Up close, he could see that despite her circumstances, someone had taught her to take care of herself. Her clothes were dirty, but not filthy. Her hair was somewhat maintained, and she sat with a posture that spoke of inner strength. The girl looked up as his shadow fell across her. Her eyes were large and intelligent, a warm brown that seemed to hold depths far beyond her years. There was fear there too, the wariness of someone who had learned that strangers often brought trouble. "Hello," Marcus said softly, crouching down so he wouldn't tower over her. "What's your name?" The girl studied him carefully before responding. "Zara," she said, her voice barely audible over the rain. "Zara, that's a beautiful name. I'm Marcus. Are you out here alone?" She nodded, wrapping her arms tighter around herself. Marcus noticed she was trying to shield a small backpack from the rain, protecting whatever meager possessions she had. "Where are your parents, Zara?" "Don't have any," she replied matter-of-factly, though Marcus caught a flicker of pain in her eyes. "Been on my own for a while now." Marcus felt something twist in his chest, an unfamiliar emotion he couldn't quite identify. He had seen poverty before, had even donated millions to various causes, but something about this girl was different. There was an intelligence in her eyes, a spark that reminded him of someone, though he couldn't place who. "Have you eaten today?" he asked. Zara shook her head, then seemed to regret the admission. She lifted her chin defiantly. "I don't need charity." The words hit Marcus harder than they should have. Here was a child, clearly in desperate need, yet she maintained her pride. "It's not charity," he said gently. "It's just one person helping another. Would you let me buy you something to eat?" For a long moment, Zara stared at him. Marcus could see her internal struggle, weighing her hunger against her pride, her need against her fear of this strange, well-dressed man who had emerged from an expensive car. "Why?" she asked finally. "Why do you care?" It was a question Marcus couldn't answer, even to himself. Why did he care? He passed homeless people every day without a second thought. His companies employed thousands, and he considered himself a fair employer, but he had never stopped his car for a stranger before. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I do." Something in his honesty seemed to reach her. Slowly, Zara stood up, gathering her backpack. She was smaller than he had initially thought, almost fragile-looking, yet there was nothing fragile about the way she carried herself. "There's a diner down the block," she said. "They don't usually let people like me in, but maybe with you." "Then, that's where we'll go," Marcus said. He gestured toward his car, but Zara shook her head. "I'll walk. I don't get in cars with strangers." Marcus nodded, respecting her caution. "James," he called to his driver, "follow us slowly." The diner was a tired-looking place called Mel's, with cracked vinyl booths and fluorescent lights that buzzed incessantly. The moment Marcus and Zara entered, conversation stopped. A man in a $1,000 suit and a homeless girl made for an unusual pairing. The waitress, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying hair, approached them cautiously. "Can I help you folks?" "We'd like a table, please," Marcus said politely. The waitress glanced at Zara, and Marcus saw recognition in her eyes. "Honey, you know the rules," she said gently to the girl. "She's with me," Marcus said firmly. "Is that a problem?" The waitress looked between them, clearly trying to process the situation. "No, no problem at all. Right this way." They were seated in a corner booth, and Marcus watched as Zara studied the menu with intense concentration. She was clearly trying to find the cheapest items, her finger tracing prices rather than descriptions. "Order whatever you want," Marcus told her. "Anything at all." "I'm not that hungry," Zara lied, though her stomach chose that moment to growl audibly. Marcus smiled. "I think your stomach disagrees." For the first time, he saw her lips curve into the faintest hint of a smile. "Maybe I could eat a little something." She ordered a cheeseburger and fries, and Marcus asked for coffee. As they waited for the food, he found himself studying her more closely. There was something familiar about her features, though he was certain they had never met before. "Tell me about yourself, Zara. How long have you been on the streets?" 3 months, she said, then seemed surprised that she had answered so readily. "Maybe 4. Hard to keep track." "What happened? Where did you live before?" Zara's expression grew guarded again. "Foster care. Last family didn't work out." "What about before foster care? Do you remember your parents at all?" Something flickered across her face, a mixture of longing and pain. "I remember some things. My mom used to sing to me. She had a beautiful voice. And I remember her laughing a lot before." "Before what?" "Before she got sick." Zara's voice dropped to a whisper. "She died when I was 7. I never knew my dad. Mom said he was a good man, but that sometimes good men make mistakes they can't fix." The food arrived, and Marcus watched as Zara tried to eat slowly, with dignity, despite her obvious hunger. She had clearly been taught manners once upon a time, probably by the mother she remembered singing to her. "What's your last name, Zara?" Marcus asked casually. "Johnson," she replied between bites. "My mom's name. She said my real dad had a different name, but she never told me what it was." Something cold settled in Marcus's stomach. "Did your mother ever tell you anything about your father? What he looked like, what he did for work?" Zara shrugged. "Just that he was tall and had kind eyes. She said I had his eyes. And that he was smart, really smart, and successful. But that he had responsibilities that came first." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. His coffee cup rattled as he set it down with shaking hands. Zara noticed his reaction. "Are you okay, mister?" Marcus stared at her face, really looking at her for the first time. The intelligent brown eyes, the shape of her nose, the way she held her head when she was thinking. His mind raced back 13 years, to a brief relationship with a vibrant young woman named Angela Johnson. Angela, who had sung in a jazz club downtown. Angela, who had left Chicago suddenly, saying only that she needed a fresh start. He had tried to find her, had hired private investigators, but she had disappeared completely. He had assumed she simply didn't want to be found, that their relationship had meant less to her than it had to him. He had never known she was pregnant. Zara, he said, his voice hoarse. What was your mother's first name? Angela, she replied, her fork pausing halfway to her mouth. Angela Rose Johnson. What? Marcus felt the world tilt around him. 13 years ago, he had been young and driven, building his company, working 18-hour days. When Angela had tried to tell him something important, he had brushed her off, said they would talk later. But later never came, because she was gone the next day. He was looking at his daughter. The knowledge hit him with such force that he couldn't breathe. This beautiful, brave, intelligent girl sitting across from him, eating a cheeseburger in a rundown diner, was his child. His daughter had been living on the streets while he lived in luxury, and he had never known she existed. Zara, he said softly, reaching across the table to cover her small hand with his much larger one. I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen very carefully. She looked at him with those familiar eyes, so much like his own mother's, and nodded. I think, Marcus said, his voice breaking slightly. I think I might be your father. The fork slipped from Zara's fingers, clattering onto her plate. The color drained from her face as she stared at him in shock. That's impossible, she whispered. Your mother, Angela. I knew her. I cared about her very much. She left Chicago 13 years ago, and I never knew why. I never knew about you. Tears welled up in Zara's eyes, but she blinked them back fiercely. You're lying. My dad wouldn't have let me end up like this. My mom said he was a good man. I am a good man, Marcus said desperately. But I'm also a man who made terrible mistakes. I was so focused on building my business that I didn't listen when your mother needed me to listen. I didn't know she was pregnant. I swear to you, I didn't know. Zara pulled her hand away from his. Even if that's true, it doesn't matter now. I've been fine on my own. You haven't been fine, Marcus said gently. You're 12 years old and living on the street. Let me help you. Let me make up for lost time. Why should I trust you? The question was fair, and Marcus knew he had no good answer. Because, he said finally, we're family, and family takes care of each other, even when they've made mistakes. The silence in the diner stretched between Marcus and Zara like a bridge neither knew how to cross. Around them, the normal sounds of evening dinner continued, but their corner booth felt isolated from the rest of the world. Zara stared at the half-eaten cheeseburger on her plate, her mind struggling to process what this stranger had just told her. I know this is overwhelming, Marcus said carefully, watching every flicker of emotion cross her face. I know you have no reason to believe me. You got that right, Zara muttered. But there was less hostility in her voice than before. She looked up at him, studying his features with new eyes. You really think you're my dad? I think there's a very good chance, yes. Your mother and I were together for about 6 months, 13 years ago. She was the most amazing woman I'd ever met. Beautiful, talented, full of life. She sang jazz at a club called Blue Moon downtown. Zara's eyes widened slightly. Mom always hummed jazz songs. Even when she was sick, she would hum these old melodies I never recognized. Marcus felt his heart clench. She had the most incredible voice. I used to go to the club every Friday night just to hear her sing. That's how we met. What happened? Zara asked quietly. Why didn't she tell you about me? Marcus ran his hands through his hair, a gesture Zara didn't know was identical to one she made when nervous. I was 28 and completely consumed with building my company. I was working constantly, always stressed about money and investors and deadlines. Angela tried to talk to me several times about something important, but I kept putting her off. I told her we would talk when I had more time, when the next big deal closed, when things calmed down. But they never did. No, they never did. And one morning I woke up, and she was gone. She left a note saying she needed space to think about our future, and that she would call me when she was ready. But she never called. Zara absorbed this information slowly. Maybe she tried to tell you she was pregnant. I've thought about that every day since I realized who you are, Marcus admitted. I hired private investigators to find her, but she had disappeared completely. It was like she had never existed. She changed her name, Zara said suddenly. When I was little, before she got sick, I remember her getting mail addressed to different names sometimes. She said it was because she used to be someone else, but that person was gone now. Marcus leaned forward. Do you remember any of those names? Zara closed her eyes, concentrating. There was one that came a lot. Angela Martinez, I think. And sometimes Angela Williams. Marcus made a mental note to have his investigators look into those names. What was she like? Your mother? A small smile crossed Zara's face, the first genuine expression of happiness Marcus had seen from her. She was amazing. Even when we didn't have much money, she made everything feel like an adventure. When we couldn't afford to go to movies, she would act out stories for me. She taught me to read when I was 4, and she always said education was the most important thing in the world. That sounds like the Angela I knew, Marcus said softly. She got sick when I was 6, Zara continued, her smile fading. Cancer. She fought for 2 years, but the doctors said it was too aggressive. The treatment was expensive, and we lost our apartment. That's when she told me about foster care, said it was temporary, just until she got better. But she didn't get better. No, she died on my 8th birthday. Zara's voice was steady, but Marcus could see the pain she carried. She made me promise to be strong, to never give up on myself. She said my father was out there somewhere, and that someday when the time was right, we would find each other. The weight of those words settled between them. Marcus thought about all the birthday parties Zara had missed, all the bedtime stories he had never read, all the scraped knees he had never bandaged. 13 years of her life had passed without him, and he couldn't get them back. The foster care system, he said gently. What happened there? Zara's expression hardened again. 5 different families in 4 years. Some were okay, some weren't. The last family, the Hendersons, they seemed nice at first. But they only wanted the government money. They had 6 kids already, all foster kids, and they treated us like free labor. Did they hurt you? Not physically, but they made it clear we weren't family, just income. When I turned 12 and started asking questions about my past, about my mom's things that were supposed to be saved for me, Mrs. Henderson got angry. She said I was ungrateful and difficult. One day I came home from school, and she told me to pack my things, that she was sending me back. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. They abandoned you. The social worker was supposed to come get me, but there was some mix-up with paperwork. I waited at the Henderson house for 3 days, but no one came. Mrs. Henderson said I could wait on the street for all she cared. So I left. 3 months ago. 3 months ago, Zara confirmed. I've been okay, though. I'm smart, and I know how to take care of myself. I find places to sleep, and there are soup kitchens for food. I've been saving money from odd jobs, planning to get my own place when I turn 16. Marcus marveled at her resilience, even as his heart broke for what she had endured. Zara, no 12-year-old should have to live like that. You shouldn't have to take care of yourself. Well, I do, she said matter-of-factly. Nobody else was going to do it. The waitress returned to check on them, and Marcus realized they had been talking for over an hour. Can I get you anything else, honey? She asked Zara kindly. Actually, Marcus said, could you bring us some dessert? Whatever you recommend. We've got great apple pie, the waitress said. Made fresh this morning. 2 pieces, please. When the waitress left, Zara looked at him suspiciously. You don't have to buy me pie. I know I don't have to. I want to. Marcus paused, choosing his words carefully. Zara, I know you have every reason not to trust me. I know this all seems impossible. But would you be willing to take a DNA test? What's that going to prove? If I'm right, if I am your father, then everything changes. You would never have to sleep on the streets again. You would have a home, a family. You could go to school, have your own room, all the books you could read. Zara's eyes lit up at the mention of books, but she quickly suppressed her excitement. And if the test says you're not my dad, then I'll help you anyway, Marcus said without hesitation. I'll make sure you're placed with a good family, or I'll find another way to help. A child should never have to live the way you've been living. Why? Why would you help me if I'm not your daughter? Marcus thought about the question seriously. Because sometimes we meet people who change us, and you've changed me tonight. I can't go back to my life pretending I never saw you on that street corner. Whether you're my daughter or not, you matter. Zara studied his face for a long moment. If you are my dad, why should I believe you won't abandon me again? The question cut deep, and Marcus knew he deserved it. Because I'm not the same man I was 13 years ago. Because I've learned that nothing I've built, none of the money I've made, means anything if I don't have people to share it with. And because I've been looking for something my whole life without knowing what it was, and I think that something might be you. The pie arrived, and they ate in contemplative silence. Marcus watched as Zara savored each bite, clearly not used to such simple pleasures. "There's something else," Marcus said eventually. "If I am your father, there will be a lot of attention from reporters and the media. People will want to know how a billionaire's daughter ended up on the streets. It won't be easy." "I'm not afraid of reporters," Zara said. "I'm more afraid of getting my hopes up." "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if you are my dad? And what if you do take me in, but then you decide it's too much trouble? What if you get tired of having a kid around? What if I disappoint you?" Marcus reached across the table and gently took her hand. This time, she didn't pull away. "Zara, look at me. You could never disappoint me. You're brave and smart and strong, and you've survived things that would break most adults. I would be honored to be your father. But what if I don't know how to be someone's daughter? I've been on my own for so long. I don't know how to be part of a family." "Then, we'll figure it out together," Marcus said. "I don't know how to be a father either, especially not to a 12-year-old girl. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we can learn together." Zara was quiet for a long time, and Marcus could see her wrestling with the decision. Finally, she spoke. "Okay, I'll take the test." Marcus felt relief wash over him. "Thank you. We can go to a lab tomorrow morning." "But I have conditions," Zara said firmly. "What conditions?" "If you are my dad, I want to know everything. I want to know about my mom's things that were supposed to be saved for me. I want to know why she really left. And I want to know that you're not going to try to change me into someone else." "I wouldn't dream of changing you," Marcus said. "You're perfect exactly as you are." "Also," Zara continued, "I want to finish school. Real school, not some fancy private place where I don't belong. I want to be normal, at least sometimes." Marcus smiled. "I think that can be arranged. And if this doesn't work out, if we can't make it work as a family, you have to promise you won't just dump me back in foster care. You have to help me find somewhere good to live." "Zara, that's not going to happen. Promise me anyway." Marcus looked into those intelligent brown eyes and saw years of broken promises and shattered trust. "I promise. But I also promise that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure we do work as a family." As they prepared to leave the diner, Marcus realized he faced an immediate problem. "Zara, where were you planning to sleep tonight?" "Same place as always. There's a loading dock behind a warehouse that's pretty dry." "No," Marcus said firmly. "Not tonight. Tonight, you're staying with me." Zara shook her head. "I told you, I don't go to strange places with people I don't know." "Then, we'll get you your own hotel room, right across the hall from mine." "That costs money." "I have money," Marcus said gently. "Let me worry about that." Outside the diner, James was still waiting patiently in the Bentley. Marcus approached the car while Zara hung back on the sidewalk. "James, change of plans. We're going to the Ritz-Carlton, but I need you to book an additional room." "Of course, sir. Will you still be attending the charity gala?" Marcus looked back at Zara, standing alone under the streetlight with her threadbare backpack and enormous hoodie. "No, I think I've found a more important way to spend my evening." As they drove through the city toward the hotel, Marcus caught Zara staring out the window at the luxury interior of the car. "Pretty different from walking, huh?" he said. "Yeah," she said quietly. "Everything about this is different from anything I've ever known." "Are you scared?" The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Ritz-Carlton's executive suite as Marcus paced nervously, his phone pressed to his ear. He had been awake since 5 a.m., making calls to lawyers, private investigators, and his personal physician to arrange for the fastest, most reliable DNA testing available. "I need the results by this afternoon," he told Dr. Sarah Chun, his longtime physician. "Are you hungry?" Zara nodded, and Marcus gestured toward the dining table where breakfast was laid out. Her eyes widened at the spread: fresh fruit, pancakes, eggs, bacon, and pastries. "This is way too much food," she said. "Eat whatever you want. There's no pressure." As Zara carefully selected items for her plate, Marcus noticed how she moved with deliberate precision, not wanting to appear greedy or ungrateful. It broke his heart to see such careful behavior in a child. "Zara, I want you to understand something. If I am your father, this is your home now. You don't have to ask permission for food or worry about taking too much. You don't have to be grateful for basic necessities. You can just be a kid." She looked up from her plate, fork halfway to her mouth. "I don't remember how to just be a kid." The simple honesty of the statement hit Marcus like a physical blow. Then, we'll figure that out too. They ate in comfortable silence for a while before Marcus broached the day's plan. Dr. Chun will be here at 10 to take samples for the DNA test. It's just a simple cheek swab, nothing invasive. How long until we know? She's promised results by this afternoon. Zara set down her fork. What happens then? I mean, what happens if the test confirms what you think? Marcus had been wrestling with that question all night. Well, first we'll need to deal with the legal aspects. I'll need to establish custody, get you properly enrolled in school, set up medical care. There will be paperwork and probably some court appearances. Will I have to go back to foster care while all that gets sorted out? Absolutely not, Marcus said firmly. I have lawyers working on temporary emergency custody arrangements. You're not going anywhere unless you want to. And if I want to. If this gets too complicated or scary. Marcus paused his eating. Zara, I need you to understand something. If you are my daughter, there is nothing that could happen that would make me give up on you. Nothing. But if at any point you feel unsafe or uncomfortable, we'll figure out what you need. Dr. Chin arrived promptly at 10, a warm woman in her 50s who immediately put Zara at ease. The DNA collection took less than 5 minutes, but those 5 minutes felt like hours to Marcus. Results by 4 p.m., Dr. Chun confirmed as she packed up her equipment. Marcus, I have to say, the resemblance is quite striking. After Dr. Chun left, Marcus realized he and Zara had 6 hours to fill while they waited for results that would change everything. What would you like to do today, he asked. I don't know. What do normal families do? The question revealed so much about what Zara had missed. Well, we could go shopping for some clothes that actually fit you. We could visit a bookstore. We could just talk. I'd like to go to a library, Zara said quietly. I haven't been to a real library in forever. Marcus smiled. Then, that's exactly what we'll do. The Chicago Public Library's main branch was a magnificent building that Zara approached with obvious awe. Inside, she moved through the stacks like someone visiting a sacred place. I used to come here with my mom sometimes, she said, running her fingers along the spines of books. Before she got sick, she said libraries were proof that people could be generous and good. Marcus watched as she pulled a worn copy of A Wrinkle in Time from the shelf. That's one of my favorites, he said. Mine too. I've read it probably 20 times, but I haven't been able to get to a library lately to read it again. Why don't we check it out? Along with anything else you want. You need a library card for that. Then, let's get you one. The process of getting Zara a library card proved more complicated than expected. She had no permanent address, no school enrollment, and limited identification. Marcus found himself explaining to the librarian that he was in the process of adopting Zara, which led to curious looks and whispered conversations among the staff. This is what I was talking about, Zara said as they left the library with a temporary card and an armload of books. Everyone's going to stare and whisper and try to figure out our story. Does that bother you? I don't know yet. I've never had to deal with people being interested in my life before. They spent the afternoon in a quiet cafe near the library, with Zara reading while Marcus worked on his laptop. He found himself stealing glances at her, marveling at her intense concentration and the way she unconsciously tucked her hair behind her ear when she was focused. At 3:45 p.m., Marcus's phone rang. Dr. Chin's name appeared on the screen, and his heart began racing. Zara, he said softly. Dr. Chun is calling. She looked up from her book, and he could see the same mixture of hope and terror in her eyes that he felt in his own chest. Dr. Chun, Marcus answered, putting the phone on speaker so Zara could hear. Marcus, I have the results. The test confirms a 99.97% probability of paternity. You are definitely Zara's father. The world seemed to pause. Marcus looked across the table at his daughter, who had gone completely still. Thank you, Dr. Chun, Marcus managed to say. Thank you so much. After ending the call, Marcus and Zara sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of confirmation settling between them. So it's true, Zara said finally. You're really my dad. I'm really your dad, Marcus confirmed, his voice thick with emotion. What happens now? Before Marcus could answer, his phone rang again. This time, it was his head of security. Mr. Wellington, we have a problem. Somehow the media has gotten wind of your situation. There are reporters gathering outside your hotel, and they're asking questions about a homeless girl. Marcus felt his stomach drop. How did they find out? We're not sure, sir. But you should know that someone at the diner last night took photos of you and the young lady. They've been circulating on social media. Marcus looked at Zara, whose face had gone pale. Stay where you are, he told his security chief. We're not coming back to the hotel right now. Dad? Zara said tentatively, trying out the word for the first time. Is this going to be bad? Marcus was surprised by how natural it sounded, her calling him Dad. I don't know, sweetheart. But whatever happens, we'll face it together. His phone buzzed with a text from his publicist. Emergency meeting needed. Story is already online. Damage control necessary. Marcus showed Zara the message. We need to decide how to handle this. What are my options? We can try to keep you out of the spotlight completely, issue a statement asking for privacy. Or we can control the narrative by being open about what happened. What do you think I should do? Marcus was struck by how she asked for his opinion rather than demanding he fix everything. I think we should tell the truth, but only as much as you're comfortable sharing. The truth is usually easier than hiding. Okay, Zara said, straightening her shoulders. Let's tell them the truth. Marcus made a series of phone calls, arranging for a controlled press conference the next morning. As he spoke with lawyers and publicists, he watched Zara reading calmly, seemingly unaffected by the chaos swirling around them. Aren't you nervous? He asked when he finished his calls. Terrified, she admitted, but also kind of relieved. I've been invisible for so long. Maybe it's time for people to see me. That evening, they stayed in a different hotel under assumed names while Marcus's team prepared for the media storm. As they ate dinner in their suite, Zara asked the question Marcus had been dreading. Why didn't my mom tell you about me? I mean, really? Marcus had been wondering the same thing all day. I think I know, but it's just a guess. Tell me. I think she was scared. I think she tried to tell me she was pregnant, but I was so wrapped up in work that I didn't listen. And I think she was afraid that if she forced me to choose between my business and my family, I might choose wrong. Would you have chosen wrong? It was the most important question Zara could have asked, and Marcus knew his answer would shape their entire relationship. Yes, he said quietly. I probably would have. 13 years ago, I thought success meant money and power. I thought love was something you pursued when you had time for it. Your mother was smarter than I was. She knew I wasn't ready to be a father. But you're ready now? Marcus looked at his daughter, this brave, brilliant girl who had survived so much on her own. Being ready and being worthy are two different things. I may never be worthy of being your father, but I'm willing to spend the rest of my life trying to earn that title. I think, Zara said slowly, that my mom would have liked that answer. As they prepared for bed, Marcus realized that unless the conference room at Wellington Industries buzzed with nervous energy as Marcus's crisis management team prepared for what they all knew would be the most important press conference of his career. Camera crews from every major network had assembled, along with reporters from newspapers, magazines, and online publications. The story of the billionaire CEO who discovered his homeless daughter had captured the public imagination in a way none of them had anticipated. Marcus adjusted his tie for the third time, his hands surprisingly steady despite the magnitude of what lay ahead. Beside him, Zara sat quietly in a new blue dress that his assistant had purchased that morning, her hair neatly braided. She looked every inch the intelligent, poised young lady she was, though Marcus could see the tension in her carefully controlled posture. Remember, said Patricia Evans, his head of public relations, keep your answers brief and honest. Don't feel obligated to share personal details, especially about Zara's time in foster care. The focus should be on the positive moving forward. Are you ready for this? Marcus asked Zara quietly. She nodded, though he caught the slight tremor in her voice when she spoke. I think so. I've been thinking about what I want to say. You don't have to say anything at all if you don't want to. I know. But I think there are probably other kids out there like me, kids in foster care or living on the streets. Maybe if I speak up, someone will pay attention to them too. Marcus felt a surge of pride so strong it almost overwhelmed him. In just 2 days, this remarkable girl had already taught him more about courage and compassion than he had learned in 52 years of life. The press conference began with Marcus delivering a prepared statement. He explained the circumstances of their meeting, the DNA test confirmation, and his commitment to being the father Zara deserved. He spoke about Angela Johnson with respect and regret, acknowledging his failure to be there when she needed him most. I cannot change the past, Marcus said, looking directly into the cameras. I cannot undo the years when Zara needed a father and didn't have one. But I can dedicate every day going forward to being the parent she deserves and to making sure no other child falls through the cracks the way she did. When the questions began, they came fast and hard. Mr. Wellington, how do you respond to critics who say this is a publicity stunt? I would say that anyone who believes I would put a child through this kind of scrutiny for publicity doesn't understand what's truly important in life. Zara is my daughter, and protecting her well-being is now my highest priority. Zara, what was it like living on the streets? Zara leaned toward the microphone, her voice clear and steady. It was scary sometimes, and cold, and lonely. But I learned that I was stronger than I thought I was. I also learned that there are good people in the world who help when they can, and there are systems that are supposed to protect kids, but sometimes fail. Do you blame your father for not being there before? Marcus tensed, but Zara answered with a maturity that amazed him. You can't blame someone for not knowing something they were never told. My mom made the choice to raise me alone, and I think she had good reasons. My dad made the choice to focus on his work instead of his relationships, and he probably had what seemed like good reasons too. But I'm here now, and we're together now, and that's what matters. Mr. Wellington, what changes will you make to your business to accommodate being a single father? Zara comes first, period. I've already begun delegating more responsibilities to my executive team. I'll still be involved in major decisions, but my primary job now is being her father. Zara, what's it like suddenly having unlimited money? Zara thought carefully before answering. Money doesn't fix everything. It can't bring back my mom, and it can't erase the years I spent feeling alone. But it can provide security and opportunities, and I'm grateful for that. What matters more to me is having a family again. The questions continued for 45 minutes before Patricia called an end to the session. As they left the podium, Marcus was struck by how naturally Zara had handled the intense scrutiny. She had been honest without being bitter, mature without losing her childhood innocence. You were incredible up there, he told her as they rode the elevator to his office. I was just telling the truth, she replied. That's what you said to do. Still, I'm proud of you. You handled that better than most adults would have. Over the following weeks, Marcus discovered that becoming an instant father to a 12-year-old was perhaps the most challenging project he had ever undertaken. Unlike hostile takeovers or complex negotiations, there was no playbook for building a relationship with a daughter who had raised herself for years. The practical matters proved surprisingly complicated. Enrolling Zara in school required extensive documentation they didn't have. Her educational records were scattered across multiple foster placements, and she had missed significant amounts of schooling. When they met with the principal at Lincoln Middle School, Marcus was prepared to hear that Zara would need to repeat a grade or require extensive tutoring. Actually, Mrs. Rodriguez, the principal, said after reviewing Zara's placement tests, she's testing above grade level in reading and mathematics, despite the interrupted schooling. This young lady is remarkably bright. She taught herself, Marcus explained. Spent hours in libraries whenever she could. Well, we'll be happy to have her here. Though I should mention, there will likely be some additional attention given the media coverage. That attention became apparent on Zara's first day of school. Photographers waited outside the building, and Marcus could see some of the other students pointing and whispering as he walked her to the entrance. This is going to be interesting, Zara said dryly. Do you want me to arrange for private tutoring instead? You don't have to deal with this. No, she said firmly. I want to go to normal school with normal kids. I'll figure out how to handle the rest. Marcus watched her walk into the building with her shoulders straight and her head held high, and he realized she was braver than he had ever been. The media attention gradually died down, but other challenges emerged. Zara had nightmares about being abandoned again, waking up in the middle of the night to check that Marcus was still in the house. She hoarded food in her room, unable to trust that meals would always be available. She startled at unexpected noises and had difficulty accepting gifts or gestures of affection. It's going to take time, Dr. Lisa Chong, the family therapist Marcus had hired, explained during one of their sessions. Zara has developed survival mechanisms that served her well on the streets, but may not be helpful in a stable family environment. She needs to learn to trust that her basic needs will be met. How do I help her with that? Consistency. Patience. Show up for her every day, even when it's difficult. Especially when it's difficult. There were difficult days. Zara had been independent for so long that accepting rules and boundaries felt like imprisonment to her. She pushed back against curfews, chafed at having to check in regularly, and struggled with the concept that someone else would make decisions about her life. I can take care of myself, she insisted after Marcus asked her to text him when she arrived at the library after school. I've been doing it for years. I know you can, Marcus replied calmly. But part of being in a family means we look out for each other. I worry because I care about you. I don't need you to worry about me. Too late, Marcus said with a small smile. It comes with the territory of being a parent. Their first major fight came 3 weeks after the press conference. Zara had been invited to a sleepover at a classmate's house, and Marcus had said no after learning the parents would be out of town. You don't trust me, Zara accused, her voice rising. You think because I lived on the streets I'm going to do something wrong. That's not what this is about, Marcus said, trying to stay calm. This is about age-appropriate supervision. No 12-year-old should be at an unsupervised sleepover. Sarah's parents left her older brother in charge. Sarah's 16-year-old brother is not adequate supervision for a group of 12-year-old girls. This is stupid, Zara shouted. I survived on my own for months, and now you won't let me sleep at a friend's house. Zara, I understand you're frustrated. No, you don't understand. You have no idea what it's like to finally have friends and then have your overprotective father ruin it. She stormed to her room and slammed the door, leaving Marcus standing alone in the living room of his penthouse, wondering if he had made the right decision. An hour later, there was a soft knock on his office door. Dad, Zara's voice was small and uncertain. Come in, sweetheart. She entered the room, her eyes red from crying. I'm sorry I yelled at you. I'm sorry too. Come here. She came to stand beside his chair, and he gently pulled her into a hug. It was still new for both of them, this physical comfort, but it was getting easier. I know this is hard, Marcus said. You're used to making your own decisions, and now you have to check with someone else. That must feel frustrating. It does. But I also understand that you're trying to keep me safe. I just don't always know how to handle having a parent again. And I don't always know how to be a parent. We're both learning. Can we make a deal? Zara asked. When you have to say no to something, can you explain why? Not just because I said so, but the real reasons. Absolutely. And can you make a deal with me? When you're frustrated, can you try to talk to me before you storm off? I'll try. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Each day, they learned a little more about how to be a family together. The breakthrough came on a Saturday morning in November. Marcus had been working in his home office when he heard piano music coming from the living room. He followed the sound and found Zara sitting at the baby grand piano he had never learned to play, her fingers moving confidently across the keys. The melody was achingly beautiful and hauntingly familiar. After a moment, Marcus recognized it as one of the jazz standards Angela used to sing at the Blue Moon Club. Your mother taught you to play, he said softly, not wanting to interrupt. She said music was the best way to remember people you love, Zara replied, her hands never pausing in their movement across the keys. She taught me this song first because it was her favorite. Marcus listened as Zara played, and for the first time since Angela had left all those years ago, he felt close to her again. Through their daughter's music, he could almost hear Angela's voice, almost feel her presence in the room with them. When the song ended, Zara turned to look at him. Do you want to learn? I could teach you. I'd like that very much, Marcus said. As Zara began showing him the basic chords, Marcus realized this was what he had been searching for without knowing it. Not just success or wealth or recognition, but this sense of connection, of belonging to something larger than himself. Dad, Zara said as he fumbled through his first attempts at the melody. Do you think Mom would be proud of us? The way we're figuring this out. Marcus thought about Angela, about the woman who had loved him enough to let him go when he wasn't ready to love her back, who had raised their daughter to be kind and brave and true. I think, he said, she would be amazed by the incredible person you've become. 6 months after that rainy night in downtown Chicago, Marcus stood in the doorway of Zara's bedroom, watching her pack for what had become a cherished tradition, their monthly visit to serve dinner at the homeless shelter where she had once sought refuge. She moved with the confident efficiency of someone who had learned to value every possession, carefully folding clothes that actually fit her now and placing them in the backpack that had once held everything she owned in the world. "Ready, Dad?" she asked, shouldering the pack that now carried homework, books, and care packages they had prepared together. "Almost. I have something for you first." Marcus pulled a small wrapped box from behind his back. Zara looked at it suspiciously, still uncomfortable with gifts despite months of gentle reassurance that she deserved good things. "It's not my birthday," she said. "It's better than a birthday," Marcus replied. "Open it." Inside the box was a simple gold locket, delicate and timeless. When Zara opened it, she gasped. On one side was a tiny photograph of Angela, young and radiant, singing at the Blue Moon Club. On the other side was a picture of Marcus and Zara from the day her adoption was finalized, both of them grinning at the camera with matching smiles. "I found the picture of your mother in some old photo albums," Marcus explained. "I thought you might like to have her with you." Zara's eyes filled with tears as she traced the image of her mother with one finger. "She's beautiful." She was. "And you're just like her in all the best ways. Will you put it on me?" As Marcus fastened the locket around Zara's neck, he marveled at how much had changed since that night when he had first seen her huddled against a building in the rain. The scared, guarded girl was still there, probably always would be, but she had been joined by a confident young woman who knew she was loved and valued. The changes in their life had been gradual but profound. The penthouse had been transformed from a sterile showcase into a real home. Zara's artwork covered the refrigerator, her piano music filled the rooms, and her books were scattered on every available surface. Marcus had learned to cook simple meals. Zara had learned to trust that tomorrow would come with its promises intact, and together they had learned that family wasn't just about blood or shared history, but about choosing each other every day. Mr. Wellington called Maria Santos, the director of Hope House Shelter, as they arrived for their volunteer shift. "And Zara, the kids have been asking all week when you were coming back." Zara lit up at the greeting. In the months since she had started volunteering at Hope House, she had become something of a legend among the younger residents. Here was someone who understood their fear and uncertainty, who had walked in their shoes and found a way to a better life. "Is Tommy here tonight?" Zara asked, referring to a 10-year-old boy who had recently arrived at the shelter after aging out of a foster placement. "He's in the common room," Maria said. "He's been pretty withdrawn since he got here, but he perks up when you're around." Marcus watched as Zara made her way through the shelter, stopping to chat with residents, helping serve dinner, and listening with remarkable patience to stories of hardship and hope. She had found her calling in advocacy work, already talking about studying social work or law when she got to college. "She's remarkable," Maria said, joining Marcus as they watched Zara help Tommy with his homework. "I've seen a lot of kids come through here, but I've never seen anyone transform the way she has while still staying connected to where she came from." "She keeps me grounded," Marcus admitted. "Before Zara, I measured success in dollars and deals. Now I measure it in whether I've been the father she deserves each day." "And have you been?" Marcus considered the question seriously. There had been stumbles along the way, moments when his old habits of putting work first had surfaced, times when he had struggled to understand the needs of a teenage girl who had grown up too fast. But they had worked through each challenge together, with patience and honest communication and the foundation of love that had grown stronger every day. "I'm trying," he said. "Some days I do better than others. That's all any parent can do." After dinner service, Marcus and Zara walked to their car through the same streets where she had once sought shelter. The November air was crisp, and Zara pulled her coat closer around herself. "Dad," she said as they reached the car, "I want to show you something." She led him down the block to a familiar alley, and Marcus's heart clenched as he recognized the loading dock where she had told him she used to sleep. "This is where I was staying," Zara said, pointing to a spot behind a dumpster that was partially shielded from the wind. "I had a sleeping bag I found at a thrift store, and I kept my backpack chained to that pipe so no one would steal it while I slept." Marcus stared at the concrete and brick, trying to imagine his daughter curled up in such a place, trying to stay warm and safe through long, cold nights. It looks smaller than I remembered, Zara continued. And not as scary. Funny how things change when you're not desperate anymore. Why did you want to show me this? Marcus asked gently. Zara was quiet for a moment, her breath visible in small puffs in the cold air. Because I don't ever want either of us to forget how we found each other. I don't want us to get so comfortable in our new life that we forget there are still kids sleeping in places like this tonight. Marcus pulled his daughter close, overwhelmed by her compassion and wisdom. We won't forget, he promised. As they drove home through the city, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. The legal battles to establish custody had been resolved months ago, with Marcus officially becoming Zara's father in the eyes of the law. The media attention had gradually faded, though occasionally a reporter would reach out around the anniversary of their story or when Marcus made a particularly large donation to youth services. More importantly, they had learned to navigate the normal challenges of father and daughter. There had been arguments about curfews and grades and the appropriate amount of time to spend on social media. There had been tears over friend drama and frustration over algebra homework and negotiations about weekend plans. In other words, they had become a normal family, with all the beautiful messiness that entailed. Dad, Zara said as they pulled into their building's parking garage, I've been thinking about something. What's that? I want to change my name. Legally, I mean. Marcus felt a flutter of concern. You don't have to do that, sweetheart. Johnson was your mother's name, and that's important. I want to keep Johnson as my middle name, Zara explained. But I want Wellington to be my last name. I want people to know I'm your daughter. The simple declaration hit Marcus with unexpected force. After months of worrying that he would never truly earn Zara's trust, here, she was asking to officially claim him as her father. Are you sure? He asked. I'm sure. I want to be Zara Johnson Wellington. That way I carry both my parents with me. I think, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion, your mother would love that. That weekend, they held a small celebration at the penthouse to mark Zara's name change. It was intimate gathering. Dr. Chun, who had become like family to them, Maria Santos from Hope House, Mrs. Rodriguez, Zara's principal, and Sarah Martinez, Zara's best friend from school, along with her parents who had become close friends of Marcus and Zara. As they shared cake and stories, Marcus looked around the room at the people who had become their chosen family. This was what he had been missing during all those years of focused ambition, this sense of community and connection that had nothing to do with business success and everything to do with opening your heart to others. Speech, speech, Sarah called out, and soon everyone was chanting for Marcus to say something. He stood up, looking at the faces gathered around his dining room table, people who had welcomed him and Zara into their lives and helped them become the family they were meant to be. 6 months ago, Marcus began. I thought I had everything a person could want. I had built a successful company, accumulated more wealth than I could spend in a lifetime, and earned the respect of my peers. But I was missing the most important thing of all. I was missing love. He looked at Zara, who was sitting between Sarah and Dr. Chun, the locket he had given her catching the light. Zara didn't just change my life, she saved it. She taught me that success isn't measured in stock prices or market share, but in whether you show up for the people who matter. She taught me that strength isn't about power or control, but about vulnerability and courage. And she taught me that it's never too late to become the person you were meant to be. She taught me something else too, Marcus continued. She taught me that sometimes the people we're meant to save are actually the ones who end up saving us. I thought I was rescuing her from the streets, but really, she was rescuing me from a life without purpose, without real connection, without love. He raised his glass. To Zara Johnson Wellington, my daughter, my teacher, and my hero. Thank you for choosing me to be your dad. As their friends and chosen family raised their glasses in a toast, Zara stood up and hugged Marcus tightly. Thank you for seeing me, she whispered in his ear. Thank you for stopping the car. Thank you for trusting me, he whispered back. Thank you for giving me the chance to be your father. Later that evening, after their guests had gone home and the dishes were cleaned, Marcus found Zara at the piano, playing the jazz standard her mother had taught her. But this time, she wasn't playing it alone. Marcus sat beside her on the bench, his fingers finding the harmony they had practiced together. You know what I love about this song? Zara said as they played. What's that? Mom used to say it was about finding your way home, even when you didn't know where home was supposed to be. Do you feel like you found your way home? Marcus asked. Zara smiled, her fingers never pausing on the keys. I think home isn't a place. I think it's the people who love you even when you're difficult, who show up even when it's inconvenient, who choose you every day even when you give them reasons not to. In that case, Marcus said, I think we've both found our way home. As they continued to play together, father and daughter, Marcus thought about the rainy night that had changed everything. He thought about the scared girl on the cardboard box and the lonely man in the expensive suit who had found each other exactly when they needed each other most. Some people might call it fate or destiny or divine intervention. Marcus preferred to think of it as grace, the undeserved gift of a second chance to get love right. Whatever it was, he was grateful for every moment that had led them to this place. This time, this family they had built together from hope and patience and the simple decision to care for each other. Outside their windows, Chicago glittered in the darkness, full of other stories waiting to unfold, other connections waiting to be made, other families waiting to find each other. But inside their home, a father and daughter made music together, creating something beautiful from the ashes of everything they had lost and found. They were home. Home. And I think she would be proud that we found each other. Even if it took 13 years. Especially because it took 13 years. Some things are worth waiting for. As winter approached, Marcus and Zara settled into routines that felt increasingly natural. He drove her to school most mornings, they had dinner together every night, and she helped him learn to play piano while he helped her with algebra. They were becoming what neither of them had dared to hope for, a real family. But Marcus knew their story was far from over. There would be more challenges ahead, more moments of doubt and growth and discovery. The difference now was that they would face those challenges together as father and daughter, as the family they had always been meant to be. In 24 hours, his entire life had been transformed. He had gone from being a successful but lonely businessman to being a father with the most important job in the world. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There would be legal battles, media scrutiny, and the difficult work of building a relationship with a daughter who had learned not to depend on anyone. But tonight, as he said goodnight to Zara through the adjoining door, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in years. He felt complete. Good night, Dad, came Zara's voice from the other room. Good night, sweetheart, he replied, and for the first time in his life, those words felt like the most important ones he had ever spoken. Zara considered the question honestly. Terrified, she admitted, but also hopeful, and I haven't felt hopeful in a long time. Marcus understood exactly what she meant. For the first time in years, he felt like his life might have a purpose beyond making money and building empires. He had found something infinitely more valuable than all his business success combined. He had found his daughter. But as the hotel came into view, Marcus knew that the easy part was over. Tomorrow would bring tests and questions and the beginning of a journey that would change both their lives forever. Tonight was just the calm before the storm, a quiet moment when a father and daughter who had never known each other began to hope that maybe, just maybe, they could build something beautiful together. The waitress approached their table cautiously. Everything all right here? Marcus looked up at her, then back at Zara, his daughter. The word felt foreign and wonderful and terrifying all at once. Actually, he said, everything is about to change. But even as he said the words, Marcus knew that convincing Zara would be the least of his challenges. There would be legal issues, DNA tests, questions about why a billionaire's daughter had been living in foster care and on the streets. There would be media attention, custody battles, and the need to prove that he was worthy of being called her father. Most challenging of all would be earning the trust of a girl who had learned the hard way that adults often disappointed the children who needed them most. As Marcus looked into his daughter's wary but hopeful eyes, he realized that all the money in the world couldn't buy what he needed most, the chance to be the father Zara deserved. The rain continued to fall outside the diner windows, but inside, two strangers who shared the same eyes began the long, difficult journey of becoming a family.